Welcome to episode 232 of the Ski Podcast, and thanks for joining us, listener.
Today we're going to be finding out about skiing in Montenegro and Tignes, what it's like at European Gay Ski Week, and all about the Jandri 3S lift in Les Deux Alpes.
We'll also have our regular snow reports, your feedback, news on World Cup wins for Team GB, and an update on the latest racing action. Now, my name is Iain Martin. I'd like to introduce my guest today. Unusually, there are four of us today. Firstly, joining us on the show for the first time is freelance journalist Mary Novakovic. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, good. Whereabouts are you today?
I'm at home in Hertfordshire.
And we were talking in the green room earlier. You're not going to be at home for long. You're off to the Alps quite shortly.
Yes, tomorrow morning, and I can't wait. It's my first time in the mountains this season, and I'm just pining. I can't tell you. I spent all of December watching everybody going on all these trips, and I was just, I want to be in the mountains.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think, everybody listening to the podcast right now is a committed skier. And if they haven't been yet, they'll certainly be looking forward to it. Okay, we'll come on to where you're going and what you'll be doing when you're out there a bit later on. But also, for his first time on the show, we have Matt Ware from European Gay Ski Week. Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, good. Whereabouts are you, Matt?
I'm in South London, but pining for the Alps.
Pining for the Alps, like all of us. I don't know if you've noticed, there's been some fresh snow over the last couple of days, and there's some more coming in across the Alps. A good amount of snowfall. We'll come on to snow reports a little bit later on, but very good timing for topping everything up. Finally, we have a regular contributor to the show, last on in episode 230, when she was telling us about the WhamWalk in Saas Fee. Catherine Murphy, hi, how are you?
Morning, Iain. How are you? I have a little bit of a cold, so forgive the husky tones today.
No problem at all. And where are you today, Catherine?
I'm in Dublin, but tomorrow morning I'm heading I have a very early flight to the Annecy Mountains, so La Clusaz, Manigo.
Right, okay. And sorry, Mary, well, I know that you're going to Samoen, so that's just on the other side of the valley. Will you two be like waving at each other?
Yeah.
From an e-bike or from skis.
Yeah. And I'll be at a cheese farm for half the time.
Right, okay. Well, we did say that maybe during those trips that you're doing, you may not be skiing, as much as you perhaps like. Question I always like to ask my guests is, when did you ski or snowboard last? So let's start with you, Mary.
Well, sadly, 2 years ago, I was in Saalbach, and a very large Austrian man ploughed into me and killed my ACL. I couldn't ski last season at all. And this season, my other knee started doing some strange things. So I'm not skiing yet, which is why this trip I'm focusing on all the foodie aspects of Samoa. And as it's the land of Repochon, it's not a difficult thing to do. So cheese farms, wineries. There's a wine festival happening this weekend, and we've got some snowshoeing to an igloo in the woods for a fondue. So I'll be happy. I just want to be in the mountains.
Right. Well, I'm with you there. Any time in the mountains is excellent. And, I did know about your injury, and obviously very sorry to hear about that. And I think possibly listeners might be interested in listening to episode 229, where we covered the Peace Cross Code and slope safety. And maybe that Austrian chap would do well to listen to that too. Catherine, what about yourself? When were you last on snow?
I was last skiing in Bad Gastein in Ski Amadee in Austria in middle of December. It was my last trip before Christmas.
Yeah, I think when you sent us that report about the WhamWalk, you were on the train on your way to Austria for that trip. Is that right?
I had a very long train ride, very pleasant, from Saas Fee in Switzerland in the Valais region over to Maria Alm, first of all. And then I travelled on to Bad Gastein, to have a look at what's going on over there.
Okay, and Matt, what about yourself? When were you last skiing or snowboarding?
So my last ski trip was the Gay Ski Week last March in Val Thorens, but I'm very excited because next week I'm going to Switzerland to Arosa for my first skiing of the season.
Yeah, cool. I've been to Arosa before. Great. Have you been over there?
Yes, I've been for the last couple of years. It's actually a Swiss ski week, Gay Ski Week, and it's really nice, very small, very familiar, but nothing like the one in France in March, which is the premier event.
Yeah, well, we'll come to that a little bit later on, and we'll find out a little bit more about that. But that's really interesting. So everybody's about to go out the Alps. Well, I'm also going out next week. I'm going out to Courmayeur and should probably get a day in Chamonix as well. I was over in Tignes for Christmas, and we'll come to that. But listener, if you're heading to the Alps this winter, just want to remind you, Intersport Ski Hire, the main sponsors of the Ski Podcast, and you can save money on your ski hire by using the code Ski Podcast at intersportrent.com. You don't have to use the code. You can simply use a link in the show notes and your discount will be automatically applied. Now, we talked about snow. We do have some of our regular snow reports from some of our regular contributors. We've got Jen Tsang from That's La Plagne, reporting from La Plagne, Andy Butterworth from Kaluma Ski, reporting from St Anton. And let's start with this one. Mike Greenland is one of our listeners, and he happened to be skiing in Bosnia just recently, which I thought would fit in quite nicely with our conversation. So let's have a listen to what he says.
Hello, Ian. Here's a snow report from Bosnia, as promised. I arrived yesterday. Good sunshine, lovely day skiing, reasonable piste. Today, good sunshine again, quite windy and quite cold. And tomorrow looks like quite a lot of new snow, possibly rain preceding that. The resort I'm in is Jahorina, which is southwest of Sarajevo, and was the home for the 1984 Winter Olympics. The women's events were mainly at this resort. It's a small, crowded resort, but it is New Year, so I would expect it to be crowded. There's about 15 modern lift and good uphill capacity. What I would say, though, is piste safety is very, very poor. The concept of the ski code and looking before you set off, or the uphill skier, is alert, no, forget it. There's a lot of wild, inexperienced skiers, and you need to be alert at all times. And the other oddity here is that almost all transactions, from ski hire to restaurants to even the apartment, is cash. And that's unusual, and it somewhat throws me. But other than that, it looks okay.
Hi, Ian and the Ski Podcast. Thanks for having me again. This is Jen in La Plagne, and I'm coming to you again from the slopes, although I'm not skiing because it's just not safe to ski and record this today because, oh my gosh, have we got the snow dumping down in the resort right now. So it's Thursday while I'm recording this for you, and it is absolutely, well, the weather has been an absolute riot all week. We've had some rain at the start of the week and very warm temperatures. Then we had absolutely freezing sub-zero temperatures, and we've had blue skies, we've had snow, and I'm really pleased to say that it looks now like the temperatures have dropped consistently and the snow is coming in. So today, Thursday, we're looking at about 20 or so centimetres falling, and it does look like that is actually going to happen. I'm just above Plan Centre, so we're just up at slightly over 2,000 metres at the moment, and it does look like we've got that level of snow coming in, and it should be carrying on through Friday and possibly into Saturday as well, before the sun comes out for Sunday and through next week. Next week looks like it's going to be blue skies and sunny most of the week, with some very cold temperatures and then warming up a little bit as well. So it does look like we're going to have some really fantastic conditions for these next week or so in January. So if you are here next week in La Plagne, you are in for a great one. It's also nice to see that the slopes were a lot quieter this week. The New Year week that we've just come out of was super, super busy. It was one of the busiest weeks we've ever had in La Plagne, which is, I guess, good for business, but it did mean it was incredibly busy in the lift pass queues. And the slopes weren't too congested because we do have enough slopes that everyone is spread out. It's just those bottleneck lift queues when you're in like Belcourt or the bottom of the Verdon Sud chairlift, places like that. The avalanche risk has been 3, but it's definitely going to go up to 4, I would expect, on Friday, and probably Saturday if it carries on snowing. The off-piste is quite heavy, and I was doing an off-piste safety course earlier today, and the guide was talking about the fact that up at the glacier we don't have a really great base of snow this winter because we had so many storms in November. It blew off a lot of the snow and the base layer, which has meant that the incoming snow has just not got anything solid to stick to. So that's really interesting and would explain why we haven't seen some of the black piece up at the glacier open yet. So Let's hope that it does stay safe and secure up there, and we might see those opening later in the season. Anyway, this has been Jen from That's Le Plan. I'm signing off. Let me know if you're ever in Le Plan. Come and find me, and I will see you on the slopes.
Happy New Year from St Anton. And boy, are there lots of reasons to be happy. If you were lucky enough to be a guest in St Anton over the New Year period, then you would have enjoyed fantastic fireworks shows, luscious laser shows and fun-filled après skis, coupled with some of the most amazing weather to see in the new year. Fresh snowfalls overnight, blue skies and sunshine through the day. It was a week of pretty much perfect conditions. The slopes are in great nick. The pistes are in fantastic form. And the off-piste has been pretty good as well. Certainly all the ski tourers have been out in the backcountry. But like I said, probably about 40 to 50 centimetres fell over the New Year period. And all of that, most of that overnight. And lovely blue skies and sunshine through the daytimes. It was quite spectacular. Moving forward, currently we woke up this morning to about 20 centimetres of snow on the balconies down in town, so clearing lots of snow off. As the weather warmed up quite quickly through the day, in the lower areas, so around about resort height at 1,300 metres, the snow turned to rain, which was a bit of a shame, washed things away, but on the mountain it kept on dumping higher up. So higher up skiing is going to be fantastic. Some of the lower slopes are going to be a little bit icy, but that should change during the week. What is a surefire way to guarantee snowfall? The answer is to hold a World Cup ski race in the resort. They spend days and days and days, if not weeks, preparing the slopes for the World Cup ski race, and then inevitably it snows just before the race, and sure enough, the race usually gets cancelled. Well, that is potentially set to happen in St Anton with the women's downhill circuit coming to town at the weekend, and the forecast for the week ahead is snow and a bit more snow, expecting around about 40 to 50 centimetres to fall by the weekend. At the moment, the conditions are lovely up on the slopes, some fresh snow, certainly higher up, skiing's been lovely. It's been cold in the higher up areas, a little bit windy, which means the off-piste isn't the best at the moment, but the pistes have been in great condition. About 130 centimetres snow at the top of Gautzig means the snow covering is fantastic. So if you've not booked your ski holiday yet, start booking. Conditions are great. Happy New Year from me. Happy New Year from St Anton. Wishing you all the very best for 2025.
And also quite exciting to say, I don't know what it's like where you are at the moment, but here in Brighton, we had quite a lot of snow yesterday. Chaos in Britain when you get 5 centimetres of snow on the roads. But what is good in England is that people have been skiing in Weardale and at the Lake District, and I found it really fun, like looking at the pictures there. 60 to 80 people were skiing yesterday in those two locations. I'll put a couple of photos in the show notes, and if you follow Skipedia on social, you'll be able to see those as well. Some race news. The big news is there has been a win for Mia Brookes, snowboarder in Klagenfurt. It was her second of the season. That's in the big air. She is incredibly talented. She's only 17 years old. She was a world champion last year. And there's another event coming up right now. Is actually going on, the qualifying in Kreuzberg, while we're recording this. So by the time it comes out tomorrow, there'll be finals. Hopefully there'll be another win for her. But what I was also very interested to see was that I hope I've got this pronunciation correct, but I think it's Txema Mazet-Brown. Is a male snowboarder, came 9th in Klagenfurt in the big air there. Now, very, very interesting. Has a French father, British mother, born in Réunion, the island of Réunion near Madagascar, brought up in New Zealand, and last summer transferred to Team GB. Now, he is a former winner of the Junior Worlds Big Air in Livigno last year. This is his first year in the World Cup, and he's picked up a top 10 already. So it'd be really interesting to see how his career progresses. And, well done to the GB Snow Sports team for picking him up. Now, last night, We had the night race, slalom at Madonna di Campiglio. Adelboden's coming up this weekend. Dave Ryding came 10th overall. Unfortunately, Laurie Taylor and Billy Major didn't qualify for the second run. But also another win for the bobsleigh team. They have done very well. It's their first win for a couple of years. They were 6th at the Beijing Olympics, and they're certainly very excited about progress. Now, regular listeners will know the Ski Podcast sponsors the Carrick Smith boys, Luca, Zach and Freddie. They're all in the Europa Cup level at the moment. And one of our listeners, Jane Michot, asked if we could have a little bit more info about their training for her son. So let's have a listen to what they have to say.
Hello, everybody. It's Zach Carrick Smith here. A little bit of a better recap since the last two have just been about my injury and I wasn't able to get skiing yet. But about 2 weeks ago, I finally got back on skis. And a couple of days ago, I managed to do my first 2 FIS races, some like lower level, not as hard as I'd usually be doing, but just some lower level FIS races just to start my season off again. And they both went really well, actually, like really well. And I was not expecting that, but I managed to win both of them, which I'm really happy with. And just from now on, I'm going to just slowly get back into racing and hope that everything goes well. As for what I'm working on, as I've only just got back skiing, I don't have too much that I'm working on except just focusing on not injuring the knee anymore and obviously not wanting to crash again. But before and after, like now, I'm definitely working on my left turn, as I have this thing on my right turn, everything seems good. But on my left turn, I seem to like kind of twist my body around and my inside leg, and it's just not as clean as my right side. So I'm working on that as well as just obviously keeping a high line the whole way down and being clean, because in races there's a fine line between being clean or holding back. Okay, you don't want to hold back, but you don't want to make loads of mistakes. So the main thing is to give it absolutely everything, but still finishing with a clean run. So that's what I'm working on. Thank you guys. See you on the next one.
Hey guys, it's Freddie Carrick Smith here. Just thought I'd give you guys a quick update on how the season's going. Last time I spoke to you guys, I was just about to go to Sweden. So I went to Sweden, got a lot of good training in on the hard conditions, because that's what we really need for the next step up. And then we came back to Europe, to Austria. Where there I got into some FIS races, start of the season. I had some really good races. I've got my best points so far, so I'm really happy. I've also got some races coming up in Italy, which is going to be amazing. I can't wait. Training's really good at the moment. I'm just working on my skiing, mostly get a little bit of space for my feet so I don't shin the gate, which then cause you to straddle or boot out. Boot out is where your boot touches the snow and then you just slide. And also getting around a line instead of cutting the line so I don't straddle. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.
Hey guys, it's Luke Carrick Smith here. Welcome back for another episode. I know it's been a while. I believe last time we spoke, we were in Levy training for the first Europa Cups, which was great. Very tough conditions, but great training and preparing us for what's to come next. I'm just going to answer a quick question that one of the listeners had and what we're working on at the moment. In slalom, I'm working on transitioning between the turns and connecting and going deep into the turns, which allows me to accelerate more out of the turn. And also top to bottom every single run. I'm also trying to focus a bit on GS because I've not done it recently and just getting time in the gates. Next, we're heading over to Kronplatz for some national champ races, which should be exciting. And going to be travelling around Italy a bit, getting races in, and then preparing for the upcoming Europa Cups, which are in Berchtesgaden. We've all got a very hectic month next with the World Juniors, Akenfreda Youth Olympics, and lots of big events coming up. Thank you so much for listening. We'll keep you updated.
Right, that's kind of interesting. Zach was talking about how he's really focusing on turning one way rather than the other. And I used my Carv 2.0 when I was in teen for the first time. And, I was slightly disappointed because my ski IQ was lower than last year. At 138, I managed 148 last year. But what was really interesting was when I dived down into the data, it said that my left turn was much better than my right turn. I guess maybe everyone's like that. Mary, do you think you turn one way better than the other?
Oh, of course, because we're not perfectly symmetrical. So just as your right hand might be stronger than your left hand and vice versa.
Another thing I think is that, you do pick up injuries over the years. And, down my left-hand side of the body, I broke my scapula in a bike accident and my clavicle in a skiing accident. And those just translate when I've been to Profi to, fit me for my running shoes and for my ski boots. We do those biometric tests, and it's clear that, like you say, we're not even. What about yourself, Catherine? Do you turn one way better than the other?
I think I turn better right to left than left to right. And it's very frustrating because I think about it with every single turn on every single trip. And
surely it's a right way to tackle it. You should be thinking about it in every turn, then you gradually make it better. Matt, are you a skier or a snowboarder?
I'm a skier. I'm a farmer stance skier. I learned in my 20s, so I get down the mountain in one piece.
Well, I mentioned just then that I was out in Tignes since our last regular podcast. Snow was great. We had about a metre of snow over the first 2 days that we were there. It was exceptionally cold with wind chill, minus 15, minus 20 or so. Didn't do really big skate. And it was also very windy, like Catherine said before. Although we had like a metre of snow, it was spread out pretty thin in places. So that new snow that's coming in now is great. The journey that we did out there, regular listeners might recall that in April I went out to Ladies Out in a van from Vans for Bands. I'll put a link in the show notes for previous coverage of that. We took another one because it was so good. 2 families, 9 of us in the van. But we had so much snow on top of that. If you've been following me on Twitter, you'll see. I mean, we had to dig that van out. It was ridiculous how much snow was on the roof. And the van is 2.7 meters high. Okay, so we tried to clear the roof, but it's quite hard to get on the top of a van that's that high. So we drove back and we still had snow on the roof. And I know technically, you're not going to do that on the motorway, but it didn't melt because it was freezing across all of France as we drove back. It was when that freezing fog. So by the time we got back to Calais and even to Brighton, we still had snow on the roof. So that's kind of maybe how cold it was or how much snow we had during that time. But listeners, if you haven't been to Tignes, I mean, the Espascali, amazing area, ski over to Val d'Isère as well. You've got the Lagon Sports Centre there, which is brilliant. I had the thrill of kind of running across the lake. They actually, because it's quite early in the season, I don't know if you've ever been to Tignes the Lac, but, normally I go for a run wherever I am. And the first day they opened it, I got to run across it. And, you've got to have some kind of faith for that. I did see a guy, there was a guy on a skidoo who he removed the barriers saying do not cross. And I'm thinking, well, if a skidoo can go across, it's got to be all right for me. But have any of you guys walked across the lake in Tignes before? Catherine?
No, I haven't walked across the lake. I've been ice floating on the lake or in the lake at Tignes, but not walking. Yeah.
In winter?
Yeah. It's this very interesting activity where you dress in bright orange bodysuits. So have you done it, Mary? And you basically look like a giant lobster, and you get it. They dig this hole in the ice, and a group of 6 or 7 of you get in, and it's Scandinavian relaxation therapy.
You don't go. This isn't the one where you go under the ice, then. And
no, it's not ice diving, just ice floating. Far more serene and great fun. Really good laugh.
Matt, have you ever walked across the lake at all?
I've skidooed over one in Italy. But we've got our ski week in March. Obviously, the lakes have melted, but we've got our skiboard guide, Fred, does a nice trick of snowboarding down the mountainside and then surfing straight across a melted lake. at the bottom, and then skis out and snowboards out the other side, which is always very cool.
Yeah, you'd have trouble doing that on a lake the size of Le Lac, but I've seen that before. You've got to be brave to do that sort of thing. Excellent. Well, while I was out in Tignes, we were in a group of 4 families. I think the highlight was probably the ESF race that we did on the last day. It's a Fleche, a giant slalom. I don't know if you've ever done that out in the Alps, but anyone can enter. It costs €10 to enter. And, there were some proper skiers, some like fast kids who were in their cat seats, and it made our group a little bit nervous. But you know what? Everybody absolutely loved it. And, if you're in a group, that kind of competitive inter-family rivalry or snowboarders versus snowboarders and just the thrill. I've done a little bit of racing before, but the thrill when you go through that wand at the top, count yourself down, get that Ski Sunday music going around in your head on the way down, and the adrenaline is great fun. I created a video about that, which I'll put in the show notes. You can find it on the Skipedia YouTube channel. Also, while I was in Tignes, I had the opportunity to speak with the Deputy Mayor, Olivier Duch. And I talked to him about a number of topics. We talked about sustainability, also about the Mountain Shaker, which is a big event coming up this March, and their focus on Paralympic and disability sport.
I'm sitting here in Tignes on a very snowy day. Fortunately, I'm inside at the Mairie, and I'm with Olivier Duch, who is Deputy Mayor of Tignes. Hi, Olivier. How are you?
Hi, Iain. Very well. With this.
Well, thank you for arranging this snow to arrive at the same time as me. I really appreciate that. I just wanted to ask you a couple of things more about Tignes itself. Like, we know it's a fantastic ski area, and I'm looking forward to the sun coming out tomorrow and seeing a bit more of it. But I've been reading in your press pack, and I've noticed around resort quite a few changes and things to do with sustainability primarily. For example, I think you've got a real focus on trying to minimise waste, trying to go for zero waste here in Tignes.
Yeah, that's one of the points of our global strategy for sustainability, which is honestly very important for Tignes, and I would say for the mountain generally, because we live off the mountain, of the nature, so we have to take care of it. And so this is one of these points, yes, the zero waste target that we promote. We change all the bins to have recycled bins in the city.
And Tignes was awarded the Flocon Vert in 2022. And I think listeners to the podcast will have heard me mention Flocon Vert before. And you have to cross a lot of thresholds to be able to get that. But we were talking about the transport within resort, and your Peace Bashers or snow groomers or dameurs. I know you've experimented with electric, but a lot of them are run on HVO. Is that right?
Yeah, yes. All of them are running on HVO, so which is already a big achievement to reduce our carbon footprint. For the moment, to use HVO is already reducing officially 90% of the carbon footprint.
And also, within Tignes, I think a lot of people use the navettes to connect between Val Thorens and Lac and 1800 and Breviera as well. And your fleet of buses are all either electric or also running on HVO?
Yes, both of them. We've got 2 of them who are already electric buses. We just bought, the STGM bought some electric buses, but we also have the other buses, 5 of them runs with HVO. It's very important for us because transport is something that people see, and as you said, transport is a big part of our carbon footprint, so we take care to reduce it.
For sure. Maximum. And actually, one thing I found really interesting is that those navettes from this time of year run throughout the night as well, don't they? They run the whole time. Yeah, which is great because, my kids and the whole group of kids that we're with, they all want to go up to Cocorico after skiing and come back down to Lac where we are. So for them, that works really well. Can I ask you another question, not to do with sustainability, but do with the events? I've been here to Tignes for various events before. Used to host the X Games here. And this winter, you're bringing back, I think the actual name of the event is going to be called the Mountain Shaker. What is that going to be?
Yes, Mountain Shaker is a big freestyle event in Tignes. It's a 5th World Cup of slopestyle and big air. For us, it was important to have an event which speaks to our visitors and even to the resort, because there was a long story between teen and freestyle. We had the Olympic Games in '92. You said the X Games. So for us, it's like a signature event, and we are very happy to have created, because it's a creation of events in collaboration with the FIS in March 2025, fourth edition, and it's a global event. And there is the freeride series the first weekend. We also have skateboards in the middle of the week, and then the competition, the World Cup competition in the second weekend.
Yeah, well, it's like you said, events like that are part of Teens DNA. One of my favourite videos, I haven't actually looked at it for years, but it was back when I think the X Games were going on, and I cannot remember the name of the guy now, but I remember you built a jump, and he did like a flip in a mini.
Yeah.
Up here in Teens, do you remember that at all?
Yes.
There you go. I couldn't remember his name. Oh my God, that was amazing. I used that in a presentation a few years ago as an example of brilliant viral marketing by a resort, but we'll get distracted on that. That's one of the events you got going on. That big air is going to look amazing as well, because it's going to be at night, isn't it?
It's at night. It was the first edition last year. It was created down the big air with a very nice atmosphere. People are very happy and shouting at each jump. So it's
and there'll be a lot of people who come to see that.
Thousands of people seeing that. So it's cool to go on the mountains. So.
Absolutely. And you mentioned 1992 already. Some of the Paralympic events were held here in 1992, and Teen is going to be hosting the World Alpine Paralympic Championships in 2027. Is that right?
Paralpine Championships.
Right. Yes, okay. And that focus on disability is also part of Teen. You've really been looking at that.
Yes, it's same. It's in our DNA as well, because in '92 we organized the Olympic Games for disabled as well. So since '92 we have a big story, and we are really willing to take care of disabled access and welcoming. So for years we have all our structure that can welcome the disabled, but we have to do more. And for us to organize that championship will help. It's like a new energy to put on this project. So we're happy to organize that and to improve our welcoming.
Yeah, and I can see that on a lot of the lifts. So, in French, the kind of terminology is handy ski, isn't it?
Yes, handy ski.
If you're a sit skier, a lot of the chair lifts are enabled that sit skiers can go on them.
Yes, but moreover, we have an association in Teen. It's not just that the seats can welcome the disabled, but every employee must know how to do that, and there's a big evaluation of that, and so we improve years after years that people know how to handle with that kind of public.
Yeah, excellent. That's really good. And I also read somewhere else that I think it's Evolution 2, the ski school, can offer lessons as well.
Yes, but honestly, all the school they can organize the ESF as well. They have Evolution 2 and some other. They have instructors who are able to give ski lessons with seats, and it's very helpful.
Cool.
And it's improving years after years.
Yeah,
more people.
That's great, Olivier. 2027 is a bit of a way off, but we will definitely be looking forward to the Mountain Shaker. That's between the 8th and the 16th of March, 2025. And looking out the window now, it seems inconceivable there won't be enough snow, because we probably had about a metre of snow in this snowfall just now, and it's very cold. So thanks for arranging that for me. If you can make the sun come out tomorrow, that would be brilliant.
It will be there.
Okay,
Enjoy the free ride.
Merci, Olivier.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
So that was really interesting to hear from Olivier, and had a brilliant time out in Teen. But we're going to move over to a different bit of Europe now. We're going to discuss Montenegro, and that was why I wanted to have you on, Mary. I see you as probably our expert from that area. I know that you've written books about the broader area, but let's try and help our listeners a little bit, Montenegro probably rings a few bells for some listeners, but where is it? Where do people find it on the map?
Well, you find it beside Croatia. In fact, you go to Dubrovnik and just carry on going. In about half an hour, you'll be in the border of Montenegro. And to the south is Albania, and just beside it is Kosovo, and just north of it is Serbia, and also Bosnia is in there as well. So it's wedged right in there, but it's on the Adriatic. And people would know a lot about it because of the coast and the coastal resorts.
Okay, for sure. And so, how you get there? You mentioned Dubrovnik. Is that where you would fly to, or do you fly into Montenegro itself?
They've got direct flights to Podgorica, which is the capital, with Ryanair. There are seasonal flights to Tivat, but that's more for summer because of all the resorts. You can fly to Dubrovnik, but there's actually a better, more regular service to Podgorica all year round with Ryanair, as opposed to Dubrovnik, which hardly any airlines run during the winter, only BA, I think.
Yeah, so I'm going to get my pronunciation now. Podgorica, yes?
Podgorica, yes.
Okay, excellent. So that's the capital. That's where you'd fly into. And then in terms of ski resorts, would you base yourself there, or then do you go to the resorts from there?
No, you would go up to Kolashin, which is the main resort. It's actually two neighbouring resorts, Kolashin 1450 and 1600. And you base yourself in either Kolashin village or one of the hotels that are beginning to spring up at both at either resort. And 2 years ago, they built a new chairlift connecting the two resorts, which opened literally a week after I was there.
Right. Okay. And so they're connecting. You said 1400, 1600. What's the highest area, and how big is the ski area there?
Well, the highest that you get is 2,035 meters, and combined, both Kalashins come to about 45 kilometers. So it's compact. It's not very big, but what it loses in size, it makes up for in character, because it's very different from skiing in the Alps.
Sure. What are the sort of differences that we're thinking about then?
Well, I mean, as far as equipment's concerned, it's all very state-of-the-art and all very new. In fact, Kolashin 1600 opened only in 2019, so everything is still quite glossy there. But it's things like, always scattered around both resorts, you have these mountain huts called katun, and they, in the summertime, they're little refuges and they're little, really cute little bars. And in the winter, a few of them are open, but you can still stay in them as well. They're rather like wooden chalets, but really very, very rustic. And some will open and offer, just very basic food and drink. So you can ski, or as I did, snowshoe from place to place. And because when half the time I was there, we had some poor weather and some of the lifts weren't working. So then you go snowshoeing instead. In fact, snowshoeing in that area is really, really wonderful. It's really good snowshoeing. And then you go places that you can arrange to have, lunch. And Montenegrin food is, it's seriously hearty. It's if you're vegetarian, not so much, but it's a lot of meat, and it's really fantastic.
And so 45 kilometers of piste, probably for most skiers that might not be enough to suffice for a week, but you could go, as you say, snowshoeing as well. You'd probably perhaps combine it with like a city break in Podgorica as well.
Well, the Podgorica isn't the most attractive city in the Balkans, unfortunately. But what I did was, when we were, in fact, it was the last day, and we went down to the coast to one of the resorts called Petrovac, and it was 15 degrees and sunny, and we just had a lovely walk along the beach. There were a couple of restaurants that were still open, so you sit there and have lovely big octopus salad because you're on the coast, and bright blue skies and lovely beach walks. And then 2 hours north, you're in Kalashin, where you've got lots of snow, and north of that is Dumitor National Park, where there's another tiny ski resort called Southern Cook, and again, really tiny. I mean, not even 5 kilometers worth of trails. but you're in this beautiful mountain landscape, and the deepest canyon in Europe is there as well, Tara Gorge, and it's a very completely different experience. As I said, it's the landscapes are very different, the people are very different, and that's what makes it very different from the Alps.
I think my understanding is that Montenegro is primarily mountains. I mean, it is a mountainous area, but another element you talk about the differences from the Alps. I'm guessing that it's significantly less expensive as well.
Yes, I think the last time it was €25 for both resorts for a day for a lift pass.
€25 for a lift pass for the day. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that's pretty good value for money.
Yeah, and a lunch of grilled river trout was, I think, €7.
And what's the snow record like then? Because not the highest, at around 2,000.
Yes, it's not too bad at all. We had a lot of snow while we were there. Too much, as I said. They had to close parts a few of the lifts, but it's pretty consistently good. It's better in January and February than it is in December generally.
And earlier on, we heard from Mike Greenland, who'd been out in Bosnia. While I've got you on the show, have you skied in Bosnia at all?
I did. I skied there, 2019. So it was just before the pandemic hit. And the problem with Jahorina, which is the main ski resort, it was one of the Olympic venues for the Sarajevo 84 Olympics. And the snow record is very, very patchy, and hardly anything was open. And when I skied, when I was reaching the bottom of the main slope, I was chased by a pack of wild dogs. So it was quite the experience. But it was also the opening weekend, and they had Brian Ferry playing in a huge marquee at the foot of the slopes, and it was absolutely fantastic. And we were based in Sarajevo, so we were driving every day, and that is one of the most fascinating, beautiful cities you ever see. And that's one of those things where you go to Sarajevo in the winter and you might have a day in Jahorina if the snow is good. But generally it's very patchy. In fact, Crystal Ski Holidays, they were running trips to Jahorina the past couple of years, and this is the first winter that they've decided not to, because they just couldn't guarantee the snow.
Okay, well, that's a shame, but that's very interesting overall, Mary. That's brilliant. Thank you for that. If it's okay, I'm going to move on to Matt now. You mentioned that Brian Ferry was playing at the opening in Bosnia when you were there. But Matt, we're going to talk about Gay Ski Week in Val Thorens. You referred to the Swiss Gay Ski Week that is going on in Arosa. The Val Thorens event, taking place between 22nd and 29th of March, is a different scale. Is that right?
It's off the scale. It's absolutely amazing. It's almost like a huge festival or carnival, but skiing is at the heart of it.
What kind of numbers are we talking about then?
So at the moment, as of the start of January, we're looking at 1,200, but it's going up all the time because Val Thorens is such a great ski area. And the ski week has moved around over the last 15, 17 years to different resorts. And everyone's very excited about being at Val Thorens. We went last year for the first time. And this year it's going to be bigger and better.
I think I read that last year you ended up with around 2,000 people. And what was interesting to me when I was reading about it and doing a bit of research in prep for the podcast is that it had almost 50 different nationalities coming together.
Yeah, there's people from literally all over the world, a lot of North Americans, because it's obviously cheaper to fly from the States and go to our ski week than it is to go to one in the States. Australians coming up, people from all over Europe. I mean, it's a real melting pot and a real celebration. But the main thing is that people are celebrating skiing together in their own sort of comfort zone.
Actually, it's interesting you mentioned people coming from North America. My kids get really embarrassed about it, but when we're away on holiday in Tignes, I'm always talking to people. I want to know if I hear an American accent, I'm super interested. Where do they come from? A lot of Americans in Tignes and Val d'Isère, predominantly from the east coast of the States, from as high up as Massachusetts, Boston, down to Florida, who'd come over to Europe because, as you observe there, it's actually cheaper in a lot of cases to go skiing in Europe. But just focusing back on a gay ski week, specifically in Val Thorens, I went out to VT reported on it in episode 165, I think, when they opened the new sports centre there, which is called Le Board. And it was before the place had opened properly, but on the roof of the board, it actually looks like a snowboard. And they were talking about how you can hold all of these events up there. And that's where you kind of hold all of your main events during the course of the week, isn't it?
It's absolutely incredible. You see the sun setting over the mountains and then the moon rising behind you, and you're in the bowl with the mountains as a kind of backdrop. And there's a full rigging and a stage, live musicians, live performers, and people just dancing in their ski boots, taking in the Glühwein. I mean, it's an amazing atmosphere. Some great DJs, and we're finishing the week off with the ABBA tribute band Bjorn Again, so that'll be fun.
It is amazing. And so one of the things about the Gay Ski Week is that there are a lot of club nights and cabaret events going on, and basically there's something going on every day, multiple times a day.
The après-ski is amazing, but in the evenings there's dinners, there's arranged dinners, so people travelling on their own can have dinner with other people from other countries. There's an evening cabaret, which is lovely. There's a kind of early party, but you can stay out as late as you want. But it is a very genuinely serious ski trip. So people ski in groups of there's 16 hosts looking after the skiers at different abilities, and that is where the true spirit of the week comes from, because people make friends on the ski lifts, make friends at lunch stops, coffee stops, and make friends for life.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting, actually, when I was looking around the website. We often get comments, I think, within the ski industry that there aren't many options for solo skiers and snowboarders. But in terms of Gay Ski Week, I saw that there's loads of different sharing options that make it much more affordable than other trips.
Absolutely. I mean, I started out 15 years ago as a solo traveller. Everything clicked when I arrived. I just went, wow, I have found my tribe. And now I'm a snow host, volunteer snow host there for the last 15 years.
Just to clarify then, you can share an apartment, a bit like, how people book a chalet. They end up sharing with people they don't know in a chalet, but you can share an apartment. But you've got that at the kind of most, the entry level, I think from just like 150 euros or something like that. But options all the way up to 5-star hotels like the Fitzroy.
Absolutely. I mean, I love the sharing option. It's called Random Roommate, which I think is quite fun. Some people have really made great friends for life through doing that. Other people, they've made the most of it. But you spend so little time in your room anyway. We're designing it so that it's feasible and economical for younger people. So young people under 24 can start off at 499 euros for a lift pass, event pass, and shared accommodation, which is incredible, really, for Val Thorens. But obviously, the sky is the limit with the 4-star accommodation, etc. If you want to treat yourself.
Yeah, well, that's really good. I mean, ticking a couple of boxes there really help the industry, bringing in solo travellers and getting younger people into skiing and snowboarding as well. Well, and that's brilliant, Matt. It would be really interesting if maybe you'd like to drop back on the podcast just after the trip or even during the trip and give us a report on how it's going.
Absolutely delighted to.
Cool. Excellent. Well, that's brilliant, Matt. Thank you very much for that. Right, I'm going to move on to Catherine, who's been sitting patiently there. You mentioned that you've been to Saas Fee and you've been to Austria, but I happen to know that you've also recently been to Les Deux Alpes as well, one of my favourite resorts. Been there several times with my family. And I wanted to have you on the show because although I went there a couple of times last winter, the big news story for Les Deux Alpes is that they have opened at last the new Jandri 3S lift that connects the resort with the glacier. And I presume, Catherine, that while you were there, you went on it, right?
I did, Iain, of course. There was one slight glitch on our first day there. They had some severe weather and ice did stop play for a little while. They had to de-ice the cables, and that took a little while. But after that, yeah, we used it a number of times during the trip, during early December.
Okay, and had you been there before?
Yeah, I've been to Les Deux Alpes both in winter and in summer.
So you could compare the kind of before and after. What was the once they got it de-iced and running? Is it as impressive as I've led to believe on the podcast before?
No, absolutely incredible. I did a backstage tour where you go up the steps, you stand above the lifts, and you see how the whole thing operates. You see the wheels that are both slowing down the cabins as they arrive in and speeding them up as they take off up the mountain. It's a €139 million investment. The S3 means it's a tri-cable lift. There are only a few other lifts like that in the world, as far as I'm aware. But I mean, the Jandri 3S is by far the biggest part of the redesign and the Les Deux Alpes mountain, as they're calling it. There are a total of 7 new lifts, but yeah, this is the biggest investment.
Yeah, for sure. I've run interviews and I've also posted a video again on the Skipedia YouTube channel about that new lift before. And I think that the key thing is that it used to take, I'm going to say 40 minutes to get from resort to glacier. And now it's 17. Is that right?
Exactly. The original Jandri lift, when you look at it now, it was installed in 1985 and it just looks so dated now. It's still in operation just for the first season of the new lift. It'll be decommissioned in May. But yeah, so they've cut the time it takes to get from 1,600 metres in the centre of the village up to 3,200 metres from 40 minutes to 17 minutes. The cabins move at a speed of 8 metres per second. I don't know how that's possible, but they do. And I think they've also more than doubled the number of skiers they can take up the mountain each hour. It's now 3,000 people per hour, which is more than the double-decker Vanoise Express in Paradisky, for example. 8 metres per second is the fastest lift speed allowed under French law, but it's also the fastest lift speed in the world. Okay,
that's really interesting, because I was going to ask you, if there are any queues, but I'm guessing if it's got double or significantly a better capacity, uplift capacity, then there aren't going to be any queues at all. You're just kind of walking straight onto it.
Yeah, well, we were there 6th, 7th of December, so I mean there were plenty of people skiing, but it's not peak season. It'd be interesting to hear from someone who's skiing there in middle of February, I guess. But I think another thing they've introduced is a safe ski team. So it's like a friendly ski patrol, and the idea is that they will improve the flow of people around the mountain when they get off the Jandri 3S and just spread people out around the mountain. I think we're hearing a lot from resorts at the moment that people are not exploring whole mountain areas. They tend to stick to one area. So they've introduced this patrol group, which will kind of in a very friendly way direct you to different parts of the mountain, just so that there's no kind of bottleneck when you get off the Jandri 3S.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the way the mountain is kind of laid out in Les Deux Alpes, because each sector, I'm trying to remember what they're called now, but each sector, it might be like Glacier is one, and there'll be one piece called Glacier 1, Glacier 2, Glacier 3. And it makes it navigationally much easier to get your head round and to work out where you are, rather than trying to refer to everything. You say to your friends, I'm going to meet you in this area or that area, etc. I do have another question for you. I wonder if this cropped up at all. To me, there was a real sense that the investment in the lift, it's not just really possibly only partially for winter. It's more an insurance for the future, potentially against climate change, because mindful that from what we're seeing, the snow rain level keeps going up. Snowfall is more reliable higher up, and therefore they can get people higher up the mountain more quickly, and in addition to that, provide for the summer market as well.
Yeah. I mean, Les Deux Alpes has such a long season. Its winter season is very long. Then you've got summer skiing on the glacier. Then you've got the summer season itself. But we had a meeting with the SATA lift company who operate the lifts in Les Deux Alpes and also in La Grave and Alpe d'Huez. And that's exactly what they talked about, adapting to climate change and transitioning to an all year round resort. Incredibly, at the moment, I've been to Les Deux Alpes in the summer. It's lots of mountain bikers, lots of children doing activities, but the summer season only accounts for 5% of their annual market. So obviously they want to grow that market substantially. And the point about being able to take the Jandri 3S up to 3,200 metres, it makes it accessible to everyone, whether you're mountain biking, hiking, whether you're just a pedestrian going to admire the views, or whether you're a wheelchair user. So there's accessibility all year long. They've also introduced 3 telemix lifts. Those lifts where one is a chair lift and the next one's a gondola. And this is with a view to adapting to climate change for wintertime, because they realise they're going to have to get people, as you say, higher up the mountain, including beginners. There's talk of moving one of the beginner areas, I think, up to 2,600 metres. And so obviously it's easier for beginners, for children and for families to get up the mountain on gondolas compared to chairlifts. It's really planning ahead.
Yeah, That is interesting. I mean, quite surprising to me that their revenues or visitors are so low for summer, considering that I would perceive Ladies Out to be quite a busy summer resort. They have the Glacier Open there, etc. Also, in relation to beginners, something to do with the nature of how Ladies Out works is that a lot of the beginners areas have been higher up to start
exactly.
off with.
It's
almost the reverse
triangle
of some other resorts where you have steeper runs, coming down into resort. And I think it was maybe 3-4 years ago, they actually cut a new blue run into the mountain to make it easier for beginners to get back to resort. But that's really, really interesting, Catherine. I'm going to have a link in the show notes to the video I produced about it before. I will endeavour to get out there myself to try it perhaps next season. I have been out and used the 3S lift in Zermatt. So I know that technology, the Matterhorn Alpine Crossing, absolutely incredible technology, and I'm assuming it's going to be more of the same. Let's move towards a close. I enjoy all feedback about the show. Always interested to hear what you think, listener. Please do contact me on social at Ski Podcast or by email, theskipodcast@gmail.com. We have had a few people get in contact since the last episode. Joseph Childs, he said, thank you for the podcast. I always look forward to the episodes. And he suggested a book for me, which I have in my hand here, and it's called Higher Love, Climbing and Skiing the 7 Summits, by Kit de Laurier. I think that's probably inspired by the conversation I had with John Moy, who's doing the Last Ride project, which you can hear about in episode 230, I think that was. Katie Waddington said, enjoyed listening to the John Yates Smith episode. That was number 233. If you haven't listened to that, listener, I highly recommend it. John Yates Smith is just incredibly entertaining. I decided I would do an episode with him after I interviewed him in relation to an article I did about Bladen Lines, and I've had so many people contact me. So, listen to it. It's very funny. Ed Clapham said, I'm really enjoying the ski podcast. It's got a great mix of guests, and for someone who's been skiing for nearly 40 years, I still find myself learning something new when listening to it. So that is really good to hear, Ed. That's what we're here for. I love the ski industry. I love talking about it, finding out about it, and that's what the Ski Podcast is for. By the way, listener, don't forget, I have an idea for episode 237, which is due to come out on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. And I'm on the lookout for ski Valentines. Did you meet your partner on a ski holiday or doing a ski season maybe? Do you fancy sharing your story? Drop me an email at theskipodcast@gmail.com if you do.
I'm just laughing. I shouldn't really say this. I was once, many, many years ago, proposed to at the top of a ski slope. It was the fastest I ever skied down a mountain, Ian. That's all I can say.
Well, there you go. Excellent. Okay, well, we're coming to the close now. There are now 244 episodes of the Ski Podcast to catch up with. 191 of those were listened to in the last week. There is so much to listen to in our back catalogue. Just go to theskipodcast.com, search around the tags and categories. You're bound to find something of interest, and you can catch up with those episodes too. In the last week, 57% of our listeners were in the UK, 16% in the States, and everyone else spread as far and wide as Zambia, Mexico, and India. Now, if you like the podcast, there are 3 things you can do to help. Follow us. If you're listening now on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, just look for that button, subscribe, follow us. You can give us a review, leave a comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and you can book your ski hire with Intersport Rent. And that will help support the Ski Podcast. You just need to use the code SKIPODCAST or take the link in the show notes. Now, you can follow me at Skipedia and the podcast at Ski Podcast. But for now, I'd like to thank my guest today. Mary, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Excellent. Catherine, thank you.
Thanks a million, Ian. See you on the slopes.
Matt.
All the very best and safe skiing, everyone.
That's great. And finally, listener, thank you for joining us wherever in the world you're listening right now. And until next time, goodbye.